there's where you are now, and there's where you want to be. Whether that's in the past, when a time was better, but usually it's in the future. It's in that future that's being projected into your mind. It's those goals you have in mind in the future. And over the past year, this is one that I've become a lot more aware of when it comes up. And it's one of the most splitting feelings. And it's the feeling of separation. It's most prevalent when we think about our goals. That makes sense. Right? That goal in the future that's outside of you. And I remember moving to Spain and having this set of goals, these goals in mind about the life that I wanted to build in a new country. Going there, not knowing the language, not knowing anybody. I had some goals in mind there. I was thinking about a close-knit group of people with openness, vulnerability, and just a deep connection, right? Deep, strong relationships. And a basic understanding for the Spanish language. And these things were intimidating. And through my first few months of living in Spain, I'm sure you can imagine this. The cutting feeling of separation from those things. And I'm reliving this as I speak. The cutting feeling of separation just destroyed me at times. And I know you feel that when I say that. Just destroyed me at times. Reality checked in with me daily about where I stood with my goals. I'll get up and it's right there in front of me. I don't know anyone here. I'm lonely as fuck. I would go out about my day and I would stumble across some, awkward interaction where I didn't know the language. And that slapped me in the face every day. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. The truth and the magnitude in that. Wow. And there's one point here and there's another point out there. That creates the space between those two. Right? Those 2 points of consciousness. That separation. And this emotional happening splits you. And it tries to convince you that you aren't where you're supposed to be. And these questions will start to come up, right? Why aren't you there yet? Why aren't you there yet? You need to be doing more. How come you don't have these things yet? And it splits you. And the intensity can vary. And the thoughts that can arise, they can just be a vicious thread of incompleteness. And one of the things that many don't understand as well is all it takes is an increased awareness around the subject to start that process of it dissolving, right? The increased awareness around it for it to begin to dissolve. And when we talk about self-work, right, mindset stuff, in my opinion, it can sound kind of vague, right? Especially in the past for me, like stale, boring, like nothing too flashy. But in reality, it can be an emotional ride if you can sit undistracted with the right questions. And it can really dig into you. The question to, one of the questions to practice which is something that I always come back to, which is really interesting to see how it impacts me emotionally, right? It's a question of, what do you want? What do I want? And with that question, remove the feeling of separation and answer that question at base form, right? Recognize the feeling of separation. Think about, what do you want? Okay, where I am now, what do I want in the future? And answer it at base form. And what does that mean? It's not dancing around the question, right? Don't think about the time in between. I know that's easier said than done, but acknowledge that feeling, right? And remove that feeling when you're answering that question. It's not dancing around the question. It's not thinking about the time, the sacrifice, the effort. Just observe the discomfort and that feeling of boldness that arises when you ponder that question. And I believe this is one of the best questions to acknowledge the feeling of separation. And it makes sense. You're here now, and we're thinking about your goals. What do you want? Your goals, that compass for where you want to go. And this is the paradox. By answering this question, you're venturing outside of where you are right now to a place in the future. So you're digging deep into that feeling, right? You're digging deep into that feeling. And somehow by doing that, it creates more clarity around the subject. And naturally, it brings you more presence, right? It sheds more light on the subject. That corner that you were avoiding, you can see it more clearly. And naturally, that will bring you more presence, more into a present moment. It's an interesting thing. And it may not be clear as day in there now, right? In that dark corner that you were avoiding, it might not be clear as day, but there's a deeper understanding of recognizing and letting go of that feeling when it arises and tries to convince you that you aren't okay.